For centuries, humanity has gazed up at the sky, not just to admire the stars, but to seek an answer to a silent question. Are we truly alone in this vast universe? But what if? What if they've never been far away? What if they've been here all along, silently watching us since the dawn of our existence? While many dismiss UFOs as fantasy or science fiction, the truth may be quietly challenging that belief. And then came the fateful night of October 21st, 1978. A young pilot named Frederick Valentich vanished into the skies over Australia, leaving behind no trace, no wreckage, no explanation. Only a final radio transmission. Chilling, distorted, and echoing like a cry into the void. That encounter may change everything we thought we knew about UFOs. What about you? Are you ready to confront a truth that refuses to remain hidden? If it were you, what would you choose to believe? Who or what took that young man away? And why did every trace vanish into the void? Let's follow the final journey of Frederick Valentich, a disappearance that shook the skies over the mysterious Australian Devil's Triangle, where the heavens don't always protect. Sometimes they swallow dreams whole. Fred, as he was affectionately called, was born in Australia to a warm Italian family. From a young age, his eyes followed every plane cutting across the sky, as if his heart was already tethered to the spinning propellers above. Fred didn't just dream of becoming a pilot. He breathed for that dream. Twice. Fred applied to join the Royal Australian Air Force. Twice. The door closed on him with a cold verdict. Insufficient qualifications. But no rejection could extinguish the fire inside his chest. He pressed on, joining the RFH Training Corps, where incomplete dreams are shaped beneath the open sky. Yet the road was never easy. Fred failed multiple attempts at earning his commercial pilot's license. Again and again, his name was crossed off the passing list. But still, he didn't give up. The young man kept looking upward, as if something in the sky was calling him home. Fred had recently been warned for entering controlled airspace over Sydney without clearance. Twice. He was reprimanded for flying into cloud zones with poor visibility. In the sky, even a small mistake can become fatal. Beyond aviation, Fred, like many youths of the 1970s, was fascinated by UFOs. He collected articles, especially admiring Chariots of the Gods by Erich von Däniken, which proposed that ancient gods might have been extraterrestrial visitors. His father once revealed a quiet fear. Fred believed that one day, a UFO might come and take him away. By the time of his disappearance, Fred had only logged about 150 hours of flight time, a modest number for handling unexpected situations in the air. On Saturday afternoon, October 21st, 1978, Fred arrived at Moorabbin Airport, rented a Cessna 182L, got his weather briefing, and took off. No one knew. It would be his final flight. At 5:20 p.m., Fred filed a night flight plan from Moorabbin Airport to King Island and back, under visual meteorological conditions. He had flown the route before, but never at night. While speaking with the weather forecaster, Fred showed signs of anxiety. He admitted he wasn't a strong swimmer and disliked flying over open water. At exactly 6:19 p.m., the Cessna 182L took off. Ahead lay the vast Bass Strait, a treacherous stretch of ocean between mainland Australia and Tasmania. For a relatively inexperienced pilot, a night flight over open sea was no small challenge. That's why the standard route involved flying southwest along the coast to Cape Otway. about 41 minutes in. A safer path, though no one could be sure if Fred followed it. After reaching Cape Otway, Fred planned to continue to King Island, an additional 28-minute leg. With enough fuel for 300 minutes, he had more than needed for a round trip. Shortly after takeoff, he established two-way radio contact with Melbourne Flight Service. And by exactly 7 p.m., he reported reaching Cape Otway, right on schedule. Conditions were near perfect. Clear skies, light winds, and enough daylight lingering until 7:18 to make visibility ideal. Fred maintained an altitude of at least 1,400 meters while crossing the strait, a standard safety measure. But just minutes later, at 7:06 p.m., Fred radioed Melbourne again. His voice was different now, lower, uneasy, touched by something he couldn't quite explain. At 7:06 p.m., Fred radioed Melbourne again. His voice carried tension. He asked flight controller Steve Roby, "Is there any aircraft flying below 5,000 feet in this area? I've just spotted something strange." He described it as having 4 bright lights, like landing lights, hovering above his aircraft, at least 300 meters away. It moved so fast he couldn't determine its exact size. Worried it might be a military plane, Fred asked again. But Roby confirmed, no aircraft appeared on radar. In the next few minutes, Fred kept reporting the object's movements. It circled above him, incredibly fast, with a shiny metallic surface, a long, narrow shape, and an eerie green glow. The night sky was no longer calm. It had become a strange stage, where Fred was the lone witness, face to face with something beyond explanation. If this story left you wondering, or simply longing for more answers, leave a comment below. Tap the like button if you believe the skies still hold unanswered truths. Share this video to keep the memory of Fred alive, the young pilot who flew into something no one could name. And don't forget to subscribe for more journeys into the shadows of history. Fred attempted to circle his aircraft, but eerily, the object mimicked his every move, as if it were watching him, mirroring him, tracking his flight with precision. It vanished, then reappeared suddenly from the southwest, again and again, playing a game of hide-and-seek in the night sky. Then, the engine faltered. The plane shook violently. The sound of the motor dipped into a worrying sputter. Fred held on, still declaring his intent to reach King Island. But his voice now carried a tremble. "It's still here, hovering right above me," he repeated, over and over, and then silence. The transmission ended without a goodbye. 17 seconds later, a burst of static pierced the radio waves, followed by strange metallic scraping and crashing sounds, chilling and otherworldly. Delta Sierra Juliet. Is there any traffic below 5,000 feet? No. No traffic in the area. It seems to be a large aircraft, just below me. Those were the final words the world ever heard from Frederick Valentish. What type of aircraft is it? I cannot confirm. It has 4 bright lights, possibly like landing lights. The aircraft is just at least 1,000 feet above. Is there any Air Force aircraft in the vicinity? Fred kept trying to communicate, but by 7:12 p.m., all contact was lost. The entire exchange had lasted less than 5 minutes, and that was the last time the world ever heard Frederick Valentich's voice. At 7:33 p.m., when the Cessna failed to arrive at King Island, an emergency alert was declared. a tense and urgent search and rescue mission was launched. Brian Jones, the duty officer at King Island Airport, later confirmed there were no scheduled flights at that time and no request to activate the runway lights. No lights were waiting. No one knew where Fred had gone and what truly happened in the sky that night. In truth, Officer Brian Jones had left the airport at 3 p.m. and didn't return until 7:35 p.m. after hearing that a plane might have vanished over the sea. A small detail, yet one that would later become a crucial point in the investigation. At exactly 8 p.m., 2 rescue aircraft were dispatched, launching a search for the missing Cessna. The skies were clear. Lights from King Island, nearby fishing boats. Even the lighthouse could still be seen. But despite sweeping the entire area, no trace was found. The next morning, October 22nd, a slick of oil was spotted about 28 kilometers north of King Island. It raised a faint hope that maybe, just maybe, this was the plane's final resting place. However, investigators later concluded the oil most likely came from another vessel, not from the Cessna's fuel. And so, Frederick Valentich, the aircraft, and the truth slipped deeper into mystery. All remaining hope quickly faded, yet the search didn't stop. It expanded across sea, air, and land. From October 21st to the 25th, countless search flights were conducted, but Fred and the Cessna remained completely silent. At last, on October 31st, the official investigation was closed, with no explanation, no conclusion, only a lingering question left suspended in the sky. But for Fred's loved ones, the search never truly ended. Rhonda Rustin, his girlfriend, held on to her belief that he was still alive. She chartered a private flight, searching on her own, convinced Fred had tried to turn back when the engine failed, just as he once told her he would if anything ever went wrong. Fred's friends joined the mission too, organizing ground searches through the mountains and forests, following every trail, every ravine, holding on to the hope that a miracle might still be waiting. Hope remained that somewhere, somehow, a clue had been overlooked. On November 21st, 1978, exactly 1 month after the disappearance, a pilot en route to King Island reported spotting what looked like the outline of an aircraft, submerged beneath the water. He immediately circled back to confirm, but when he returned, the object had vanished. The sea below was over 60 meters deep, with strong winds and rough waves. No one could say for certain whether it was truly wreckage or just a mirage created by light and water. Nearly 5 years later, on May 15th, 1983, a piece of engine cowl drifted ashore on the west coast of Flinders Island, Tasmania. After close examination, experts confirmed that the part belonged to a Cessna 182L, the exact model Fred had flown on that fateful night. The steel bolts on the recovered engine part were severely corroded, suggesting that it may have failed mid-flight, or during a final, violent impact. But what truly surprised investigators was its journey. Over 400 kilometers, far beyond initial projections. Strong and erratic ocean currents may have carried it that distance. But there is another possibility, subtle and unsettling. Before 1983, 2 other Cessna aircraft of the same model experienced similar failures while departing Flinders Island. And this very engine component had been known to detach under specific conditions. So, was the engine cowl truly from Fred's plane? Or was it a tragic coincidence? One final twist in a story already steeped in mystery. Ironically, that fragment, the only known physical clue, was later lost. Or worse, quietly discarded, for reasons no one could ever explain. If this story left you wondering, or simply longing for more answers, leave a comment below. Tap the like button if you believe the skies still hold unanswered truths. Share this video to keep the memory of Fred alive, the young pilot who flew into something no one could name. And don't forget to subscribe for more journeys into the shadows of history. By May 1982, the Bureau of Air Safety Investigation released its final report. The disappearance of Frederick Valentich and the Cessna 182L over the Bass Strait remains a mystery without explanation. But it's that very ambiguity that opened the door to countless theories, from grounded logical assessments to eerie, otherworldly speculations. And among them, one theory persists above all others: intervention from beyond this earth. Was Fred truly abducted by something extraterrestrial? This belief draws strength from his final radio transmission, where Fred reported being followed by a strange flying object, emitting 4 powerful beams of light, and then static, followed by haunting metallic scraping sounds, like something tearing through the veil between worlds. Was it all imagination? Or a truth too unsettling for us to accept? As soon as news of the disappearance spread, international media jumped on the story. They didn't just report it. They dug deeper, pushed boundaries, and at times, amplified the mystery to surreal levels. Then, the witnesses began to emerge. Around 20 individuals, mostly locals living along the Great Ocean Road, claimed to have seen strange green lights moving across the sky at the exact time Fred took off. Among them was one account so detailed, it stood out. On the evening of October 21st, 1978, a woman and her 2 nieces were driving home. That's when they spotted brilliant flashes in the sky. At first, they assumed it was just an airplane. But then, a massive green glow appeared, hovering directly above them. Silent, motionless, and unlike anything they had ever seen before. These weren't just ordinary sky watchers. They were residents living near Apollo Bay Airport, people who knew exactly what landing lights looked like. And they insisted what they saw that night was different. Suddenly, a second green light appeared above and slightly behind the first. Then just 20 seconds later, both lights vanished without a trace. But then came a witness who offered more than just words. He brought an image, frozen in time. Roy Manifold, a quiet man from Cape Otway, had taken several photos of the ocean. Just 20 minutes before Fred flew over the Bass Strait. When he developed the film, he noticed something strange. An object in the upper right corner of the frame. At first, he dismissed it as a camera error, but experts later confirmed. No dust, no scratches, and no film damage. Whatever was in that image was real. The strange object in the photo was identified as a metallic mass, cloaked in a haze. Kodak's lab in Coburg analyzed the negatives and confirmed the film was perfectly intact. No faults, no errors. And by now, you're probably thinking what so many others have wondered: that whatever caused Fred and his aircraft to vanish without a trace might not be from this Earth. Adding weight to that theory was the fact that the Bureau of Air Safety Investigation had, at one point, seriously considered an encounter with a UFO as a possible explanation. But the story didn't end there. Roy Manifold's son later added a curious detail. He recalled that after his father went back inside the house, he had stayed outside, alone, under that same sky. Suddenly, a sound pierced the quiet night. An engine noise, unmistakably similar to that of a Cessna. But the sky above was crystal clear, and not a single object could be seen. Then, the sound faded, abruptly, as if someone had turned the radio dial all the way down, into absolute silence. Another witness soon came forward. A farmer living nearby claimed that the morning after Fred's disappearance, he saw something hovering over his property. It was, according to his account, about 30 meters in diameter, with fragments clinging to its surface, still dripping with oil. Shocked by the sight, he etched the registration number he saw onto his tractor to make sure he would never forget. A strange coincidence? Or a piece of evidence quietly ignored? Because the number he carved perfectly matched the registration of Fred's missing Cessna. At first, the farmer shared his story only with a few trusted people. But the laughter, the disbelief, made him choose silence. Still, somehow, the account made its way into the hands of UFO researchers. As with most sightings involving unidentified flying objects, the witness remained anonymous. No photos, no recordings, and to this day, no one knows if he truly existed. If all this still isn't enough to support the alien theory, then perhaps the very location of Fred's disappearance is the Bass Strait, stretching between Victoria and Tasmania, is long considered Australia's Bermuda Triangle, a 300-kilometer stretch of sea scattered with over 50 islands, a place where unexplained vanishings are not a rarity. And Fred Valentich was just one more name, lost to its legend. The Bass Strait is more than a vital maritime route. It's a region notorious for violent currents and unpredictable winds. Disappearances here have been happening for centuries. One of the most infamous cases was the Sydney Cove, which sank near Preservation Island while carrying cargo from Calcutta to Port Jackson. Even more chilling, during the rescue attempt, another vessel, the Eliza, also vanished without a trace. And it didn't stop there. During World War II, at least 17 military aircraft disappeared mysteriously over the strait. No battles, no conflict, just silence. Some pilots had reported being chased by a massive brass-colored disc. Others described bottomless black shapes, looming in the skies. The Bass Strait is not just a body of water. It's a place where reality begins to blur. If this story left you wondering, or simply longing for more answers, leave a comment below. Tap the like button if you believe the skies still hold unanswered truths. Share this video to keep the memory of Fred alive, the young pilot who flew into something no one could name. And don't forget to subscribe for more journeys into the shadows of history. Many disappearances across the Bass Strait ended without a single trace. But what about Fred Valentich? Years later, astronomer and former pilot James McGaha offered a different theory. He believed the incident had nothing to do with UFOs, but rather could be explained by confirmation bias, a psychological tendency to interpret events based on what we already believe. Fred already held a deep conviction in the existence of extraterrestrials, so when he encountered something unusual that night, it's possible he interpreted it through the lens of his own belief. In truth, on the night Fred vanished, the skies were clear, visibility excellent, and when he described 4 bright lights, like aircraft landing lights, it happened to coincide with 4 celestial objects, visible in the sky at that moment. Venus, Mars, Mercury, and the star Fomalhaut. They formed a nearly perfect square in the Australian night sky. Could it be that Fred saw not a spacecraft, but a projection of his own fears? The human brain is wired to connect scattered points of light into familiar shapes. And perhaps that's what led Fred to believe he was being chased by a long, narrow flying object. But what is the real truth? Did Frederick Valentich truly encounter an alien force? Or was he simply a victim of his own mind's illusions? No one can say for certain. The disappearance left behind only a trail of theories, none of them provable. And as with any unsolved mystery, the rumors quickly spread. Some speculated that Fred had staged his own disappearance, that he deliberately changed course to begin a new life in some secret place, that the Cessna never crashed, but vanished by design, according to the young pilot's hidden plan. If Fred had truly staged his own disappearance, then why would he do it this way? Details surrounding his flight that day raise more questions than answers. He told airport staff he was flying to pick up a friend, and even brought 4 life vests. But he told his family he was heading to King Island to buy lobster. During the investigation, no such friend was found, and no one on the island knew of any seafood order. And if Fred genuinely planned to land at King Island, why didn't he request the runway lights be activated? The airport closes at night, and pilots are required to call ahead to land safely. Fred had flown there before. He would have known this. That led to a darker possibility. Was this a suicide? Fred was a young man full of passion and ambition, but his dream of becoming a commercial pilot was slipping away. He'd been rejected, failed exams, and had to fight just to stay in the cockpit. Maybe the only thing he couldn't let go of was the sky. Failing exams, facing issues with aviation authorities, even lying to his family about his results. All of it could make someone feel cornered, without a way out. But Fred's girlfriend and family insist. He showed no signs of depression. In fact, they were talking about getting married, about building a life together. So what really happened in the sky that night? Whether it was staged or a tragic choice, one thing is certain. Fred's final radio transmission was filled with bizarre details. Some investigators still believe it was just a simple aviation accident. They point to a classic scientific principle, Occam's razor, which states that unnecessary complexities should be discarded. Because sometimes, the simplest explanation is the most reasonable one. But if this truly was just an ordinary aviation accident, then why was there no trace of wreckage ever found? The Bass Strait is known for its violent currents, large swells, and an average depth of 60 meters. If the Cessna crashed into the sea, the wreckage could have easily been swept far from the last reported position. That might explain why the engine cowl was found on the shores of Flinders Island, dozens of nautical miles away. Still, we have to consider the physics. The Cessna 182 weighed around 1.4 tons. Would the currents that night have been strong enough to carry heavy debris that far? According to the Bureau of Air Safety Investigation, in 1983, the currents in the Elbas region were so strong They triggered massive storms. If similar conditions had occurred in October 1978, then perhaps the wreckage drifted too far for anyone to ever find it. Could it be that the search team simply missed the wreckage? Lighting conditions that night played a critical role. The sun had set at 7:18 p.m. on October 21st, 1978. Just 5 minutes after Fred's final transmission. And the emergency alert wasn't issued until 7:33 p.m. By the time the search teams arrived, darkness had already fallen, and visibility would have been severely limited. Another theory emerged, one that added another twist to the puzzle. It suggested Fred may have been flying inverted for an extended period, causing fuel flow to stop and leading to engine misfire. But the Cessna 182 was not built to sustain inverted flight. So if that's true, why would Fred fly that way? Was he simply distracted by something he believed was real, or did he become disoriented in the dark and mistake the reflection of his own aircraft on the ocean's surface for something chasing him? If this story left you wondering, or simply longing for more answers, leave a comment below. Tap the like button if you believe the skies still hold unanswered truths. Share this video to keep the memory of Fred alive, the young pilot who flew into something no one could name. And don't forget to subscribe for more journeys into the shadows of history. But from over 1,400 meters above, could Fred truly have seen a reflection beneath the ocean's surface? Or was it something else? A moment where faith and fear collided in the final seconds of flight? Nearly half a century has passed, and the mystery of Frederick Valentich's disappearance remains unsolved. A cunning extraterrestrial encounter? A tragic act of youth? Or just a simple accident? Forever misunderstood? Whatever the truth may be, this case has become one of the most compelling enigmas in aviation history. But for Fred's family, it was never a puzzle to solve. It was a wound that never truly healed. Though the events of that night live on through rumors, theories, and supernatural speculation, perhaps Frederick Valentich should be remembered not for how he disappeared, but for who he was. A young man, full of passion, determined to chase the sky, even when fate had written a sorrowful ending to his flight. If you want to continue discovering untold mysteries, don't forget to subscribe and ring the bell, because the next video might change the way you see the universe.